are you? Come on up. All right, I'm joined this afternoon by Glenn Tolbert, the president of ATU Local 26, the bus drivers, by Phil Douglas, president of AFSCME Local 312, our maintenance folks, and June Nickelberry, president of AFSCME Local 2014, along with several members of union leadership. So I was awakened at 5:30 a.m. With a phone call that our buses were not pulling out. And so I started my day at the Gilbert Terminal, where I met with a large group of drivers, and it wasn't a hostile conversation, but we had a number of drivers who were deeply concerned. It became very clear to me very quickly, this wasn't a union-initiated effort. This was drivers genuinely feeling uncomfortable for themselves and their passengers. And so we talked about it, and they raised with me today 3 issues, all of which I thought were legitimate. First, of course, the fear that everybody has of infection from the coronavirus. And as passengers get on the bus, they tend to congregate at the fare box. The interaction happens with the driver, and in the course of a day, a driver can be exposed within 6 feet of a whole lot of passengers. They were concerned about risk of infection for themselves and their families. Second, they felt that while we had made improvements in the bus cleaning and the provision of protective supplies, that it wasn't enough, that we needed to significantly improve our cleaning resources and make sure people had gloves and wipes. And then third, the issue that I think was the final straw is that the governor, when she issued the order closing the restaurants to the public at 3 o'clock yesterday, our drivers were all on the road. Our drivers used bathrooms and washed their hands at the end of routes at many of these restaurants, and they found themselves locked out in the middle of their shifts. And so if you can imagine a driver who feels like they're working a shift with passengers who may be carrying germs on a bus that isn't being cleaned well enough and they can't even get in and wash their hands at the end of their run, you can understand the anxiety that they were feeling. I spent a good part of today at both of the terminals. We had great cooperation from Phil Douglas, the president of the maintenance unit, to really upgrade what we're doing. His staff has done a fine job on the cleaning side, but we needed to put a lot more resources into the cleaning given what we're facing. And June Nickelberry on the supervisor side gave us a great deal of guidance. And so at 3 a.m., we will be back to the buses running at what I expect to be full service. But there will be some significant changes. One, the city of Detroit will no longer be charging fares. So for the balance of the coronavirus period, DDOT bus rides will be free. And we will ask the passengers not to come in the front door past the fare box, but to both board and deboard out of the rear doors. So what this does is it eliminates the flow of all the passengers past the drivers until this is over. So DDOT service is free. We are also going to keep the seat immediately behind the drivers clear unless a transit police officer has to be there. So we're going to provide some cushion for our drivers who are interacting with so many members of the public on a given day. Second, on the cleaning side, in addition to supplying gloves and wipes to everybody, we have added 10 additional cleaning staff at each terminal on each shift, and we've added a contingent of 20 cleaning staff who will clean the buses at the end of each run instead of waiting until the end of the night and doing it once. And so we are in the process of either hiring or contracting for upwards of 40 cleaning staff right now. They're already being deployed. Many of them are already on site, but I think our longtime passengers will notice even cleaner buses going forward than we've had. And then third, I just got to give a lot of credit to Governor Whitmer, and this is the benefit of having a mayor and a governor who work together. But when I let the governor know today about this issue, she is putting out clarifying information right now on the state's website that the executive order she issued yesterday that the public could not go into these restaurants, she's making it clear that transit employees, police, EMTs, postal workers do not constitute members of the public. That is, for all of our restaurants and businesses who think you have closed down for dining inside your facilities, I expect shortly, if it's not already posted, for the governor to make clear that that does not mean that your bus drivers and other public servants can't continue to use the restroom at your facility. That's the point of the executive order, was to keep people from congregating. It wasn't to stop what is really a very sanitary thing for the bus drivers to be able to use them. And Elisa Malel is here. She has been on the phone all day, and I cannot say enough to the businesses in this town. She has been on the phone all day calling different restaurants, fast food places, gas stations. Every place something was closed, she got on the phone and said, hey, can our bus drivers use your restrooms at the end of the runs? And the response has been nothing but positive. And so we will have a handful of cases where we have porta-johns with cleaning hand sanitizers in them. But the great majority of cases, we have found restaurants that have been enormously cooperative, and it's just a really good feeling to see the community respond the way it is. Hakeem Berry is also here with me, our Chief Operating Officer, who has been central to putting this agreement together. What we agreed to today, I think we passed it out, didn't we, John? So the terms of it are passed out. It spells out in detail what we said today. But this is what happens when you work together. The conversations from the beginning of the day, they weren't yelling, they weren't hostile. They were, here's what we need. They walked me through the buses, showed me what needed to be done, took me through the issues on supplies, and basically from 6 a.m. till about 2 p.m., the three union leaders and the management at DDOT and I sat down and worked through something where they could be comfortable recommending to their members that both they and the public will be safe riding DDOT buses tomorrow morning. And so we're back to work, and with that, I'll turn it over to the ATU president, Glenn Tolbert. Glenn?
Good afternoon. First and foremost, I believe I want to say we as a union value our passengers. It was an unfortunate situation that happened this morning that the passengers were left out, but I too, like the mayor, was awakened at 3 a.m. to tell me that my drivers felt that they weren't safe, they weren't being heard. You had a number of things going down in the federal level and the state level and the city level, and we felt that we were being ignored. And saying that the passengers were affected, and for that I apologize. We have nothing but the utmost. This was for our passengers and us. You know, the city did what they could. After talking with them, they did what they could, but this is new to everybody. This pandemic is new to everybody, and they did what they thought that they should do. We didn't feel that it was enough. You know, a number of things affected us with the public coming on, and we didn't want to get sick and infect the public, and we didn't want them to get sick, and we needed measures to be put in place. And to the mayor's credit and Mr. Hakeem's credit, they did come out and they heard they heard what the members said, and we put some things in place that will probably ensure that we can go forward. We can go without any service interruption. And that's the goal, to move the people that we have to move. I have with me my board standing behind me. we're prepared to put in long hours and make sure that we earn the public's trust back, and that this was for them also. All right, so a number of things happened. They were talking about 250 people gathering, then they went to 100, then they went to 50, and then I think it's 10 now. However, we realized that we move people, but we need to be safe. We need to be safe, not to take it home to our families, not to give it to the public. So we needed the buses clean, and they were cleaning them. We didn't feel that we went for enough. I think what we have agreed to today, as the mayor has said, will go a long way into helping us resolve this problem, and hopefully it won't happen again. I too like to thank Governor Whitmer for, backing up and allowing us and asking the restaurant owners, and I want to thank the restaurant owners also, and the service stations and all for helping us and letting us, bring their their employees to work, and letting us use their restroom. At this time, I have nothing, but I want to introduce Brother Phil Douglas from Local 312.
Good afternoon. I represent the men and women of vehicle maintenance. I got a phone call at about 4:30. I'd like to thank the mayor. I'd like to thank Hakeem, Angelica Jones, and her staff. The mayor has guaranteed that we're going to have the cleaning equipment that we need, and we're going to double the cleaning staff. So once again, I'd just like to thank the department. That's it.
Can't you?
Oh, sorry. And I'd like to introduce June Nickelberry. She's the president of Ask Me Local 214.
Good afternoon. I'm June Nickelberry, president of Ask Me Local 214, the supervisory employees at DDOT. And I just want to say that the mayor, Mr. Berry, and our director, Angelica Jones, have done a wonderful job of getting this resolved. And our public is we work for the citizens, and we're glad that we're able to continue to work for them.
All right, so every day brings a new challenge. Nerves are on edge all the way around, and I could not have been more pleased at the conversations. When you have a conversation with 100, 150 people at a time, as I had at both terminals, it was amazingly respectful and constructive as we talked through solutions together. And what you see on this page was the suggestion that came from the union members in the course of the day. This was their plan, and I thought their position was very reasonable. And I think we now have an agreement that there's an active committee of union leaders working with Director Jones. So if there are problems in the future, they will deal with them quickly and address them. We won't have any more service interruptions. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Maybe, you guys briefly touched on it, but Governor Whitmer did put a ban in place of 50 people or less. Does this apply to the city buses as far as how many people you allow on the buses, or will that change?
It does not apply to transit as far as I know. I think as a practical matter, with what's happening right now, I'm not sure that it's a big issue. So I may need to get your clarification on that. I think as a practical matter, bus ridership is down. I don't think it's going to be a big issue.
If that was me to follow up, is there any proactive discussions in place in case things do get moved down the bar even further from that 50 to 10?
My life changes here every day. And so if the governor changes it, we'll deal with it. My daughter lives in New York. She rides the subway every day, which drives me nuts. And she says, it's great, I can get a seat now. So Americans are making their own decisions on what risk they're willing to take. And for a lot of people, you have no means of getting to your job or getting around without riding the bus. And so I don't think I have to tell anybody to space themselves out on the buses as best they can. My bigger concern was that in the course of a day, an individual driver might exchange words with, 200, 250 people coming through the front. You could see those drivers being at a high risk of exposure because of the number of people coming in close contact. That, to me, is the bigger concern than somebody you might be sitting next to on the bus, and I thought their concern was legitimate, and we've addressed it. I hated to cancel the fare box, but we're going to have a lot of financial hits in this city. It seemed like an important thing to do to protect the health of our drivers.
Mr. Mayor, do you know of any of the bus drivers or anyone who may have been tested?
We have one person who's in quarantine awaiting a test result. To my knowledge, we don't have a single city employee who has yet tested positive, but that's a matter of time. We're all going to know somebody who's tested positive within in the not-too-distant future. But at the moment, I'm not aware of any city employee who has yet tested positive. There are 8 or 9 who are right now awaiting results in different departments.
With the enhanced cleaning of all city facilities and vehicles and now doubling the cleaning for the buses, based on what we've seen as consumers at the stores, does the city have any concern that you're gonna run out of the disinfectant, the wipes, the things you need to make sure that these facilities are as clean as you'd like them to be?
So Boise Jackson, our procurement director, about 2 weeks ago, asked all the department heads for order requirements, and before the crunch came, we ordered a huge amount of material. Having said that, we're continually reordering, and right now, you've got folks who say it's on order and it's in transit. At the moment, we're okay, but everybody in the country is asking for the same thing. So we were ahead of the curve. We're okay for now, and we need to just keep resupplying.
Do you think that there should be some rules that give governments priority if these resources become scarce, since you do interact with so many more people than people who can just sort of retreat to their homes?
Hospitals, doctors' offices, there's other people who would think that they deserve to be a high priority. Our situation was we just wanted to have our act together, and Hakeem ran quite a process where he had every department put in a request for everything they could possibly want, and our procurement department procured it. So we were prepared, we were ahead of the curve, but the longer this goes, again, you got to get resupplied. At the moment, we're okay. I can't tell you how we'll be in 3 or 4 weeks, but hopefully the supplies will keep coming.
Mayor, talking about that revenue of the fare boxes, wanted to get your take on if there are conversations happening of how big of an impact that this all can be when it'll come back, and then also, given the fact that it was 5 a.m. conversations that brought this to your attention, do you think there are other departments throughout the city that are having needs and concerns similar to this that you're not aware of?
So this morning when I left the Gilbert Terminal, I called Chief Craig, I called Fire Commissioner Jones, I called DPW Director Ron Brundage, and I called General Services Director Brad Dick. And I said, I want you physically out with your employees talking. And as a result of that, we've just dramatically ramped up the cleaning in the police precincts. And so I should have been out myself talking more frequently, but I think when Mr. Tolbert said they felt like they weren't being heard, I think that was an accurate description. And so we are now getting out into all of our offices, making sure employees are heard. And what I heard from the chief this morning was there was a desire for increased cleaning at the police precincts, and we've already ramped that up in the last 6 or 8 hours. So we're trying to learn from this experience and not repeat it.
Mayor, what time tomorrow will the budget be?
3 a.m. They'll be back on the road, and the team here tells me that we're all going to show up, right? All right.
What's going to be the financial impact of free buses for, and how long do you?
Not nearly the financial impact of no casinos. The city of Detroit gets $600,000 a day in revenues from the casino taxes. But the governor did what she had to do, and I fully support it for safety. There's going to be huge financial impacts on the city, on the county, on the state, on the federal government. Federal government, of course, can print money. The rest of us have to balance a budget. So at some point, we're going to have to deal with all of that. Right now, we're going to protect the health of the public. When the governor called me about the casinos, I said, it's a health issue you have to do. I fully supported what she did. But I can tell you for sure the casino revenue is much greater than the loss of the fare box revenue. So we're going to have significant financial issues we're going to have to address here. But we have been setting aside reserves. I'm not sure we planned anything this drastic, but the city's in a whole lot better shape than it would have been 5 or 6 years ago to handle this.
Mr. Mayor, how do you convince hourly workers to keep on showing up for work when everything is so stressful, whether it's in transportation or in the service industry, grocers, healthcare?
I'll let anybody here talk about it. You don't sign up to work at DDOT because you wanted to be rich and retire to the Bahamas. I mean, you have something in your heart that says this is a really important mission to move people who need it, and they're mission-driven. I don't know who wants to talk about this, but it's not a pep talk for me. It's what you guys believe every day, right?
Well, I'll talk about it. Actually, I want to be able to provide for my family, and everybody that comes in here wants to be able to provide for their families. And we are working in contract talks with Mr. Berry and Ms. Christia now on contract, trying to keep people and retain people and attract people to this job. It was a career for me 25 years ago, and it can be a career for a young person now. But we need to make sure that they're paid properly, and we're able to attract and attain people, keep people. All right, so.
Spoken like a first-class union negotiator. Other questions?
Mr. Mayor, can you comment at all about, I've ran into a couple city workers who are still just concerned about even coming to work as
Yeah.
we progress. I know you've talked about it before, but what's the thinking as we kind of move along here?
I'm coming to work and interacting with lots of people every day. When you sign up for public service, it doesn't mean you sign up when things are easy and then you hide when things are tough. Now is the time the people of the city of Detroit need us. And I am so proud of our police, our fire, our EMS workers, our bus drivers and mechanics, the people who are out doing the roads and the parks. City workers are showing up for work. And there's a lot of people in this office building who interact with members of the public every day. And so folks who can do their jobs from home, we're making arrangements to do their jobs from home, but for the great majority of city employees, you can't be a bus driver or a mechanic from home. And we got to be here, and it's a challenge, but I'm proud of the job the city of Detroit employees have done, and I keep saying, this is going to go on for months. This is not something in 2 weeks that's going to be gone, and we're going to have to learn to live with the coronavirus and function every day, and today was another lesson that I was not sensitive enough to making sure I was hearing our bus drivers, and I may need to be more sensitive in hearing more people in more departments.
Mr. Mayor, the President and the Treasury Secretary have announced that they want to send checks to individual Americans to help support them. Should the government be thinking about some sort of support from municipalities who are the first line of interaction between people and their government?
I'd be perfectly happy if they just got us test kits and ventilators. The federal government could do the first order of business and protect us. That, to me, would be a good step. And, when I'm not dealing with the transit issues, I was again today dealing with testing capacity. Until we're testing 2,000 or 3,000 people a day in the state of Michigan, we are not going to be on top of this. And that right now is the single most urgent thing. And if they could find a way to address that, that would be the best thing they could do. Yeah.
So speaking of testing, I got a call yesterday from a listener who is in Beaumont Low, and their car waiting a very long time to even get tested. Obviously, what we're seeing in Detroit is a lot of people don't have cars to even kind of get into that kind of drive-through situation. So what answers are available for something like that?
So you're back to your same thing, and number one, I'm skeptical how many people actually got results and when they'll see their tests. So we talked about this yesterday. Most of the major hospital systems and I spent yesterday afternoon and talking about a huge drive-through testing process. There's no lab capacity to even do the tests. As soon as there is lab capacity, we will be rolling out a mobile outreach. Yesterday, of course, we were out in every single homeless shelter and warming center, checking on our individuals. We reached out. We have plans in place for mobile outreach to people who don't have cars. But none of that matters if you take a swab and nobody tests it. And so when you're still testing at 125 a day, we might be up to 200 a day today. I think one of our hospital systems just came online with some more capacity. But when you need 2,000 or 3,000 tests a day and you're only doing 200, outreach doesn't do you any good. And if you let the test results sit there for 14 days before they're done, well, you might have been negative 14 days before, but you might have interacted with somebody, and so now you're giving somebody a result that doesn't mean anything. So everything depends upon the capacity of the testing. Once that happens, you will see huge drive-through testing sites. You will see major mobile outreach coming from us. The Detroit Pistons have already made clear to me they will help fund the mobile outreach as soon as that testing capacity is there.
Mr. Mayor, Governor Whitmer has been pretty aggressive in addressing some of the public health concerns. And this morning, I guess he had time with everything else going on.
Yeah, I know.
President Trump was very critical of her.
Yeah, you've got a natural tension in that California, the state of Washington, and New York, where the coronavirus hit first in America because people were coming from Italy, China into those airports, came first. Much of the testing capacity, the reagents, supplies and stuff went to the states first. In the Midwest, you're seeing a lot of tension on the part of the Midwest governors in particular because there is not the support there ought to be for the rest of the country. I think you're going to see a lot more governors articulate what Governor Whitmer is articulating as you see more and more of the spread in the center of the country. We have got to find a way as a country to deal with this testing capacity. They've got it solved in New York now. We got to get it solved in Michigan. We got to get it solved in other states.
But if you were inclined to tweet, what would you tweet back to the president?
I don't even know how to use Twitter. Alexis won't let me have the password to the account, so I'm the wrong person to ask. So I'd like to tell you, if you see the tweets from me, I'd like to tell you I do them myself, but somebody far more skilled is handling that.
Can you mentioned, I think, one person in quarantine, 9 more, I want to make sure I don't garble that.
No, that we have had approximately 8 people in this city that are in quarantine awaiting test results. In some cases, they interacted with somebody who's had a COVID-19 test. In other cases, they may have had a COVID-19 test ordered for themselves. And the delays in getting these test results are an issue right now. But our policy has been very clear. If you've had primary contact with somebody and their doctor has ordered a COVID-19 test, you will be quarantined until that test result comes back. And so we've got 8 or 9 people in the city right now who are quarantined pending a test result. 1 or 2 of ours may have actually had a test result ordered. But as I say, it's just a matter of time. It is a matter of time until everybody in this room knows people who have COVID-19. And it'll be, it's just going to be a natural progression as we go along. Yes?
I want to get your concern as to some of the plants, the auto plants in and around the city as they grapple with
Yeah.
whether to come to work or not.
Yeah, I have enough issues with the 9,000 people who work for the city, so I'm going to let GM Ford and FCA deal with the issues they have at their plants, and they don't need management advice from me. All right, anything else? All right, go ahead.
I'm a print guy. Ms. McNary, Mr. Douglas, can you spell your name?
Go ahead.
Nickelberry, Nickelberry.
And first name to make sure I don't.
June, June.
All right,
Phil Douglas, like it sounds.
very good.
And Glenn Tolbert has 2 N's.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.